Good morning, everyone. I'm Kat, and I'm the Outreach and Communications Coordinator with Ontario Streams, and we're back for another Fish Friday. This week, our theme is all about the fry stage. As the salmon that we have, they are just about 6 months old now, so they are really, truly in that fry stage. So we can take a look at the life cycle here. Of course, we remember just weeks ago, they were teeny tiny little salmon eggs, and they have hatched, and they became what we call alvin. And then they kept growing and started eating, and now they are in this fry stage. The fry is generally around an inch or so long, and we will see some footage of our Atlantic salmon. I know we missed them 2 weeks ago for Earth Day, but we are back with the footage of our salmon to see these updates. But we can really start to see now that they've developed a lot of their coloring and patterning. Their shape is really what they will continue to grow into, but we see a lot of their fins there now, and it's really exciting to see them keep growing. So here we've got a video of them starting to eat. So again, we see about 1 inch long. We start to pick up on those markings along the side, and they are getting a little bit more adventurous these days. So that's nice to see. In the tank, it is now sitting at around 13 degrees Celsius, and if you'll recall, that is an increase over the past several weeks. We've been slowly increasing the temperature because as it is spring now and the outside temperatures are warmer, we want to make sure that the salmon in our hatchery are held at more or less the same temperature as our local streams. So we've been monitoring stream temperature and then bringing the temperature of the tank up to match the stream temperature. So that way, in just a month, when we go and release them out into the Humber River watershed, we will be able to make sure they don't have quite a shock to their system. They'll be used to this temperature and ready to go. So as I said, about 1 inch long here, but they still have a long way to go. An adult Atlantic salmon is about 3 feet long, so still quite a bit more growing to go over the next several years. But again, the shape is more or less there right now because they've got all of their fins and they've started to develop that pattern, which will change over time as well as they grow. And we did touch on this a little bit last time, but we are feeding them, of course, so that they are able to continue growing. And we see here they are very interested in food these days, which is a true sign, again, of that fry stage. They are ready to eat, ready to explore, ready to start developing their skills for when they go out into the wild. So we did touch on this a few weeks ago, but they are being fed brine shrimp here in our hatchery. And this is to more or less replicate what they would be getting out in nature. And in nature, they are going to start with really small things while they are still tiny fish. And they will start by eating things like plankton. And plankton is a variety of very small living things that you do need a microscope to see. But they are there in the water, in our freshwater systems, and the salmon will at first find these little bits and pieces to eat. And then they will start to grow. And as they grow, they will switch to things like aquatic invertebrates or macroinvertebrates. And these are, again, still pretty small things. It's a big fancy word of saying insects, bugs that live in our water. So kind of in the same family there. A lot of these are just the larval stage, the baby stage of many of our insects that we find on land. So interestingly enough, a lot of our local insects will start their life in water. Things like mosquitoes, some kinds of flies, dragonflies, they will start their life in water, and then as they grow, they will start to develop their wings and fly off into the air and hang out on land for the rest of their life. So salmon do like to eat many of these different guys as they start to grow. These ones are likely going to move a little bit faster. They're a little bit bigger. So again, it's kind of that next stage working up to one day eating a lot of other fish. So slow little steps to get up to growing and eating different things. just like humans, really. We start with very soft food, and as we grow and get bigger, we're able to start introducing harder and bigger kinds of food. So our salmon here, again, we see them so excited here about life, moving around and getting a lot more active. About a month ago when we were looking at them, they were still really chilling and relaxing on the floor of their hatchery. So we are starting to see a lot more movement into the water column, which is great news. It means they're more active, they're ready to see the world. And in this case, they're also starting to develop a lot of the things that they need once they will go out into nature. Here in the tank, we're seeing them starting to develop their hunting instincts. So that is again why we feed them live food rather than like fish food or pellets, is so that they can realize and start to learn how to catch prey. Is if we just feed them pellets, they might be a little lazy and not ready to go catch their food once we release them out into our local rivers. So we've got that skill being learnt, how to hunt their prey. In nature, salmon are usually the top predator on their food chain, other than humans, of course. So they really do need to get those instincts, be ready to catch different sizes of prey, different kinds of prey, so that really increases their level of success once they're out in the wild and ready to eat and catch their own food. In our hatchery as well, they're learning about competition. As this is a tank, it is not a huge ecosystem for them. So they're starting to learn about limited resources and limited space as well in this habitat. Luckily, though, there's only about 4 more weeks that they'll be in here, and then they will get into a much larger space to live the next rest of their life. But right now, they're learning about how to be the fastest to catch the food and not really learning to share because out in the wild, it's kind of every living thing for themselves. So they want to be the one to catch the food first, and that, of course, increases their survival rate. Here in the tank, we've got about 168 salmon, so it is a little bit close quarters, but not for much longer, as I said. And that is down from 200, which is still good. It is still much higher survival rates than in the wild. In that first 6 months in the wild, sometimes survival rates can be as low as 10%. So that's about 90% of Atlantic salmon not making it through those first 6 months. Here in our hatchery, we are seeing about 84% survival. So that is really wonderful news. That's basically flipped, right? Almost 90% of them surviving this first 6 months. And as I said, very soon going to be put into our local rivers where we hope their survival still stays nice and high. We are planning another Fish Friday, of course, in just 2 weeks, so very soon. And this one is going to be a very special Fish Friday because it is in honor of the International Day of Biological Diversity, as well as World Fish Migration Day. So a huge celebration to be had for these Atlantic salmon, as they are one of the few migrating fish that we have here in Canada. And in honor of this very special celebration, we will be partnering with the Toronto Zoo, who also runs a classroom hatchery program with Atlantic salmon. So we will be on site at the Toronto Zoo in just 2 weeks to hear from the Great Lakes program and how their salmon release is going, raising and releasing is going, and hearing just about a different comparison for another very similar program, all working towards the goal of bringing back Atlantic salmon here in Lake Ontario. So it's wonderful that we have so many partners working towards this goal, trying to help our little Atlantic salmon get back on their feet here. So that is in 2 weeks on Friday, May 20th at, of course, 10 a.m. here on YouTube. And then our final one will be in another 2 weeks. I believe that's Friday, June 3rd. And we will be on location live, releasing our Atlantic salmon from the hatchery. So we've had a very wonderful 6 months with our Atlantic salmon, but they are of course ready to go off into the world. So you can join us then, again 10 a.m. 4 Fridays from now, 4 weeks from now, where we will be releasing the Atlantic salmon. If you've got any questions, of course, as always, you can post them in the comments and we'll be happy to respond to those. And I hope you have a wonderful Fish Friday.